Alright everybody, so in today's video I'm going to show you what I think is like the best way to study faces from like stylized faces. So we're going to use Tanjiro from Demon Slayer as a model for today. And in this video I'm going to show you what I did to kind of replicate this head in a different view while maintaining my own structure. So the first thing that you kind of want to do is you want to take the head and like break it down. So you'll have like your Loomis method here. If we take that and split it in half, the points that you want to think about after you put in the sides of the head are where the brow line is. And for Tanjiro here, his eyes are kind of like his eyebrows are kind of raised, like as if he's surprised. So really, I would say at about the bottom is probably about where you would want to throw that line, and then here at the bottom of the nose, and then the top of the brow. And then, as you can see, this and this are about the same size, which is telling us that they use the rule of like thirds for the face. So you would be able to do a third and pull that down a little bit. So that is the basic part of it right there. Throw in the neck. Now we want to look at the features themselves. So the nose is taking up that space, which is fine. We don't have to worry too much about the nose structure right now. Now you want to really focus on how much space the eyes are taking up here. Vertical and horizontal space. So the eyes are taking up, I would say, a little over half of this space here. If you subtract this sliver right here and this sliver, it's about a little bit over half. So that is something that you want to reproduce as you are putting it in a different view. And then finally you want to also check where the mouth is resting. And for this character, the mouth is 1/3, which is about normal. So one thing that's important before I show you how I like my replication of this is that you are noticing that people use the actual proportions of a head to guide them in creating something stylized, which is why like my previous videos of like, you know, me drawing heads like over and over and over again using the Loomis method are so important, because you have to get that structure down and understand what the basics and the averages are of the human face, and for that matter the human body, before you move towards being able to stylize something or understand stylization. Because you could look at this face and say, oh, like this is what a face is supposed to look like, and then go and look at a face from like, I don't know, like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and the proportions are going to be vastly different, right? And you're going to be like, I don't know which one like is an actual face, like how do I make these kinds of styles? So now I'm going to show you what I did to replicate it. So as you can see, and again, this isn't a perfect like, this isn't like a one-to-one. This is not a one-to-one copy, but I don't think anybody would look at this character and say this is a completely different character than that one. And that's kind of what you're going for when you do these, right? And with me doing this, I also learned something, which was I learned how to correctly add a huge eye while also still utilizing structure. What do I mean by that? So when we have bigger eyes for our characters, that means that we have to have bigger eye sockets. So it's going to change the structure of what a head typically looks like. So this view done in Loomis method is going to look something like this. So this is the Loomis method version of this head, right? What's the biggest difference? Sorry, that's gonna bother me. Okay, so OCD. So the biggest difference between this head and this head is, I would say there's two things. The first thing is this head right here, I kind of spread out the jaw a little bit more because this is supposed to be somebody that's like younger, right? This head already looks a little older than this head. So that's number one, but that's not the most important thing that I learned. The most important thing that I learned is actually with this area right in here. So for those of you who don't really know, the eye sockets kind of lie within the head like this, right? And they go back in space in comparison, which is why you get this line right here before it comes back out to where the cheek is. When the eye is only taking up a small portion of the head, which is like right in here, this is perfectly fine. But could you imagine putting this size eye in here? What it would look like is this. Now that doesn't make any structural sense. Like, if I were to, here, let me just go ahead and like rough in an eye in this view. If I were to go ahead and draw an eye right now, and then a nose, you see how wonky this looks? This looks so weird. And the reason for that is because I haven't given it enough space, right? I haven't made the eye sockets big enough. So it's throwing off my placement and it's throwing off the overall structure of the head. Now, if we look at the biggest change that was made, it's actually here. Like this change right here, and I'll show you. So the biggest change that I made was I made the eye sockets much larger, and I also rounded it out a little bit. So that way it could fit this large eye that we have. So now, see how much better that looks and feels? Like, without doing this, it just would not have come out correctly. Okay? So like that's something, that's like an example of what I learned while doing this kind of study. And that's what you want to learn while you're doing these studies. And this is now a stylized choice that I can make with my own manga, my own characters. So this is how you should study somebody's art style. You shouldn't just say like, I don't know. Some people say, and I'm a little bit weary on this, but you just take like eyes and like head shape and like lips from like different creators, and then you just kind of toss it onto a head, and then boom, you have your own art style. I would say that yeah, you can do that, but you won't be able to make it correctly if you don't understand the structure of the head well enough to make those changes, right? So like if I didn't understand the structure of the head well enough, I would have had like a monster looking version of poor Tanjiro here. So just those are the things that you want to think about as you try to replicate style. But anyways, I do hope that this video was really helpful for you. I did spend some time thinking about it and thinking about how I would kind of teach this, so I do hope that it was helpful. Maybe in a future video I'll take another art style like JoJo's or something like that, and I'll try to actually replicate it on screen instead of doing it off screen. I tried to do it again on screen, but it just wasn't coming out the way that I wanted it to, so I kind of went back to when I did this particular drawing to use it as the example. But anyways, I hope that this was helpful. If you like this kind of video, just go ahead and comment down below what style you would like for me to try to replicate like this in the future. And if you can, please subscribe. I'd appreciate it. And if you made it all the way to the end, you're an absolute trooper, and I appreciate you. All right, I'm Manga Mike, and I'm out.